Hello, everyone.
Hello. Sorry. Like, oh yeah. Hi.
Sorry we're late. I'm not sure even if anybody's watching because of the soccer game tonight. We'll see though. We'll just be talking amongst ourselves, I guess.
Yeah, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to Twiddlers 62, if I'm not mistaken. And tonight we have KMRU joining us from Berlin. What's up?
Yep. I'm good. Pretty calm.
Everything looks really nice and zen in your place, Joseph.
No, it's very minimal and super calm in my flat, and it's where I get like play around with toys and make music. Yeah.
Awesome. And also joining us is Luke Slater from the UK, and he'll be watching, keeping an eye on the screen to the side of him to see what his fellow Englishmen are doing tonight. But
what it all comes to. Yeah.
Good luck, man.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's no big deal, eh?
No.
And also we have Lady Starlight, the queen of the machine drum, again on the on the chat. Good to see you, Colleen. How are you?
Good to see you too. I am good.
Nice one.
Enjoying the nice weather. Enjoying the warm weather.
Yeah. So yeah. KMRU was telling me it was hot in Berlin. What's the weather situation there?
I think it's not so hot, but like there's also like a week where it was super hot, but it's okay. Yeah.
Take it while we can.
Nice. So I mean, we just decided to come together because the one thing that kind of connects all of us is our participation in this wonderful project that Luke started called Dialogue. And maybe Luke, you can explain to people what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody is watching, if they haven't, if it's all a bit new, because the project's only just got released digitally, I think. So vinyl's not even out yet. But sort of to sum it up in
elevator pitch. Come on.
Yeah, step one, there was a lockdown everywhere. Step two, none of us were doing any gigs. We were all suddenly, isolated. And I found that immensely difficult to not have any contact with anyone to do with music. And kind of realised I got that so much from doing gigs that I didn't even realise I got that much from doing gigs. Totally isolated. So after ringing any people I knew just to say how you doing, how you getting on, I kind of wanted to do something musically instead of words. So I got on this thing behind me here, which arrived just before the pandemic, which was very nice.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Good timing. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna lay down, 20 minutes of something, just something nice that I liked, some kind of atmospheres. Nothing pre-programmed, just roll with it. So I ended up with this part, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if I could somehow I did it with video as well. I videoed it and recorded the audio at the same time. I thought, wouldn't it be great if someone else could collaborate with this? And I got to thinking, there's all the experiments with the internet, not unlike what you've done, Joachim, actually live collaboration. I thought, well, maybe there's a kind of a way of doing this that's a little bit different, that doesn't rely on internet connections and things like that. So basically, I rang up Tony Surgeon. I said, "No, Tony, how you doing? Yeah, I've done this. I've got this idea that I'm going to send you a bit of video with some audio, and you take that and play it off to the side of your, of what I want you to do. And I want you to pick one machine and just play over the top, invent something over the top that might go with it. Don't overthink it. Don't pre-plan anything. Just listen to what I've done, watch what I've done, set up your video camera, get the good quality audio onto it, and record what you feel over the top." So he was really into it. I sent it off to him. He sent it to me back, so I had 2 pieces now. And I think the first one, I reached out to a guy called Tom Moth, who's a harp player. He lives down the road from me. And Tom, I know he's quite into experimental stuff. What he did in gigs as a job was quite standard harp, but he's totally into this whole experimental harp playing, which sounds really different from synths. So I sent them both to him. He did his bit, and then I got 3 parts back. I mixed them together, put the video together, and I was kind of blown away, really. I thought, wow, this, we've kind of had some kind of conversation musically with each other, and it just works really well. It just sounds good. So, I wouldn't have even known whether it would have come out good or not, but it just somehow came out really good. So I put that one together, and then I couldn't stop. So I reached out to you, Joachim, and Joseph, and last but not least, Miss Lady Starlight. And there's 4 of them in total. It's taken about a year to get them where they should be, and for the idea of the concept and how they look and how they sound, and the right message to try and put them out there. And yeah, I'm extremely happy that they've just been released digitally on Oscar now. But yeah, I mean, I think it was something born out of just the need to be with other musicians and bounce ideas. Something that really, I probably wouldn't have done it, if it hadn't been for the lockdown. I probably wouldn't have felt the need. So it's something born out of that realization, just how isolation. I found it pretty hard going. Loads of people do, I'm sure, but I wonder if there must be something there, because when the whole dialogue project was going along, it wasn't like I had to really explain much to you or Joseph or Tony or Tom or you, Colleen. It was kind of a natural thing. But I think that's as well down to the people who are involved. I think just having the ear to collaborate in that way is a kind of a special thing. If I had more time, I wanted to reach as far around the world as I could. I had this because when I didn't know Joseph before, I met Joseph through Tony, and Joseph at the time was you were in Nairobi, right?
Yeah, I was in Nairobi then. Yeah.
So that part he did, he's still over there, and I had this idea of this could reach musicians all over, because it's not a live collaboration, it's a live collaboration domino effect of video and audio,
recorded in stages. Yes, yeah,
recorded in stages, yeah. But the thing I like is it's not rehearsed, so what you see in the video and what you hear in the audio is one take. There's no editing, mistakes and everything, if you can call them mistakes, but probably not, but everything's just in there on that take, and nothing gets chopped out. And I like that. You're seeing and hearing what happened at the time. It's a good document, I think. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah, it came out absolutely great, and it was really fun to participate in it. And yeah, you like you said, you did have some kind of, not really rules, but like a format to it, because you said, okay, you can use one instrument or one instrument and an effect, and you need to record it in one take. That was basically the idea. So no editing, like you said, no rehearsing, whatever. So did everybody stick to to those rules, or did?
Yeah. It's kind of limitation, isn't it? I think it's we've all got so many options. I think even within a computer, you've got so many options. So I like that idea of no, you're going to have to choose one thing and just make the most of it. I think it's a good practice in my head.
I personally got I was at the third stage. So what you made on your Colossus was sent to Joseph. Then Joseph added his part, and I was the last one to kind of smear the mix and kind of fill the gaps, whatever. What stage of the project did you get, Colleen?
Same, the last one.
The last one, okay.
Yeah, as I was doing it, it was interesting because I was thinking, oh, this is great. It's kind of like each one has its own challenge and its own benefit. So it was interesting to think, I'm like, wait, is this the best one or is this the worst one? I can't really decide. I was like, well, it's the one I have, so it was great. But I really, the thing about the last one is that you can then listen and hear what's not there. And, when you're like Luke, when you're doing the first thing, you're just laying the groundwork and creating,
That's the easy bit. Yeah.
But it's not the easy bit. It's each one is difficult because in the middle, you have to then leave space for the third one. So everyone has to restrain themselves in a different way. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to do even more and have different people at different stages and see, because that would be interesting for me to think, oh, well, what would the first stage be, or the second, it would be interesting to see what that would be like.
Yeah. I mean, there's even the idea of taking your performance, putting it with Speedy's and a different one of mine.
Yeah, you could totally
kind of. Yeah. I haven't tried it, but there's all these sort of things you could do. But I'm still in love with the idea of sort of reaching out to someone, on the other side of the world, and just and it's not purely a synth-based thing. I mean, we all are involved in that, and I know you guys, but I think you can do it with any instrument with an effect. So I like to think there's a sitar player who dabbles with all experimental stuff that I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I wouldn't know. But just involving those kind of things, I think it just really interests me. I mean, the music can be beautiful and difficult. So I think that's what I like about it as well. It's not like we've done a kind of just a lovely thing. When I listen to them, they can be beautiful, but they can descend into quite some dark areas and then kind of lose I like, personally, that's being human, right? We're not like that. We're kind of all over the place, I really love that about it. You probably get termed as, oh, that's difficult to listen to. But
well, what I really like about, I think you made a really nice choice of making the original foundation that you recorded between like 30 or sort of like 25, around the 25-minute mark, basically, or the 20-minute mark, because it's too long to just keep on doing the same thing. And so you eventually, when you are playing over top of something that has that length, you find yourself taking a turn at some point, you know, like taking it into some other direction, because it's just a little bit too long to leave it in one sort of space all the time, you know.
You get bored. You know?
yeah.
It's difficult.
For me, I did enjoy like the idea of like using one instrument and like limiting yourself like solely to like one thing or like one tool. And it happened when you reached out, I was like doing lots of one take recordings and just like leaving them as they are. And yeah, when you sent in your part, I was like listening back to this, and because when you like hit record, there's no like pausing and starting again. It's just like finishing the piece itself.
Yeah, you're on the spot and just hope it works out. You know, I guess very much like you know, in the days of tape and stuff, you know, stuff got laid down on tape and there was no going back, and you could record it again, but you couldn't. You know, you couldn't. You had to get on with it when you started. You know.
Yeah, Asan01A is asking why the limitation of no rehearsal and planning, Luke.
Because it's more exciting. It's more. I think I've always felt this, that if you're making a piece of music, to capture that thing, whatever, it doesn't matter what style it is, but if you can capture that thing that's coming out there and then that's the main core of the job. And to do that, I think you need to be very quick and very decisive and not think about things too much. Just do it. And I think by rehearsing, I'm sure I would have done, and maybe we all would have done. You know, okay, that's not bad, but let's try that again. I'll do a different bit in the middle, or start messing around with it. And as soon as you get into that kind of loop, I think it's very hard to find a point where you go, yeah, that's good. And then by then you've thought about it too much, and you've lost kind of original that thing.
Yeah. Did any of you actually do multiple takes, or just had one go and that was it?
Yeah,
I did multiple takes. I did two.
Oh. Okay. Don't tell Luke. Don't tell Luke.
Because I couldn't get the audio. I couldn't get I only recorded one. I only recorded one, but I did have to. I couldn't figure out. It was more like I couldn't figure out how to record it. It was more of a kind of. It's like, wait, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to start it at this point? Did you guys not listen to it beforehand?
Yeah,
no,
I did.
I did.
Yeah. Basically, I played it once, and then already, you know, it was already quite a composition that already was pointing in some kind of direction, you know, because it had Luke's part and Joseph's part already in there. Yeah. And you know, Luke's part was like bassy and kind of rhythmical, and then Joseph's part was more sort of floaty chord type stuff, you know. I think you used the lyra, right? The Soma lyra.
Yeah, I used the lyra for this. Yeah,
it's a great thing. Yeah.
So I was thinking just to do something more percussive, you know, because everything else was already there basically. So I kind of chose an instrument to kind of fill the gaps basically. And I listened to it once, and then I just did the take just in one go. Yeah. And yeah, like Luke said, you know, if you think about it too much, even if you rehearse it, I think you know, your sort of most intuitive things are usually the best ones if you play like this. And if once you start thinking about it too much, then you kind of lose the spontaneity of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe that comes across. I hope that comes across to people. I hope that's a positive thing that comes across, that vibe. It's kind of there, you know.
Yeah. On the other hand, do you think it matters how it's made, that people should know how it's made, or I would or you can just enjoy it for what it is, I guess,
Yeah,
without knowing how it's done, right?
you mean like technically?
Yeah.
No, I think discussing, whether I used the Colossus and Joseph used the Lyra and you used the Resonant Garden on R1. I'm interested in that stuff and I love it, but I don't think it's that important I don't want people to, it's great on here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that may be interested, and that's great, but I think maybe it's an interesting concept for people that they know what they're hearing is, it's kind of us having a go.
Mm.
It's live to an extent. There's, that kind of point is, look what we did, and we did it we just put this together. This isn't some kind of rehearsed thing. I kind of like that idea that maybe people will that will help people feel things, but technically I don't think it's important, really. It's nice for us because we just like gear.
Yeah, I was not really talking about the gear, but more like, okay, there is this piece of music. It came together in stages. It was recorded in one take. All that information, like it makes it more. If you have that context, you might listen to it differently. But I think, any piece of music should just be, enjoyed and judged or whatever by what it is, what it eventually had become.
Would it? Do you think it makes any difference whether people know anything?
No, that's what I'm asking myself. I don't think so.
No. Well, that's probably good. If they like it just because of the music, that's a goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think with those things, it's kind of like they can work on different levels. Like you can just appreciate the music, but if you want to, you can also, be inspired by the concept. So I feel like you could look at it both ways almost. It's not like it could matter if you wanted to go deeper into the process. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you could just be like, cool, sounds cool, it is cool. Great. Yeah. I like to know what people are thinking, and I like concepts because, it's just interesting to listen, to think about what a musician is thinking. Sometimes it's also good not to know, because sometimes you find out and you're like, oh, that's really not cool at all. Okay. You're super disappointed. But often, when it comes to electronic music, I feel like it's somehow more interesting to know what somebody is doing. And, the process, again, could be something that's important in a way that perhaps kind of more traditional forms of music, the process, if you're judging a song, maybe the process is not so important, but with electronic music, I think it's very. I find it very interesting how people what they're thinking while they're to get that end result.
What did you end up using for your part, Colleen?
I used the Mark Verbos, the Verbos Electronics Complex Oscillator in my Eurorack. And then I used the Eventide H9, which works like the harm modulator. Just put it on anything and it sounds amazing. It's the best cheat sheet of life. Like super boring, bass line.
Make it sound good.
Exactly. Does my work for me. It was I really enjoyed it was funny because I hadn't spoken to Tony in a while. And then, I was watching the video and I was like, oh, I just, and then we spoke and I was like, I just performed with you. You know what I mean? It was like the weirdest thing to think he had no idea. So it was just like, oh, it was a great set. It was really funny because I really did feel like I was performing with you, Luke, and Tony. It really felt like a real collaboration.
That's
Yeah.
really great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
cool.
it's funny because that is something I was not really worried about, but sort of wondering about, because you're not in the same room, you don't really sort of feel the energy of the person that you're jamming with, and still. When I was doing my take, I felt like I was playing together with other people. It's like maybe also because I just listened to it once, so it still had surprises in there. Um, but yeah, so I thought it was going to be more different than it actually ended up being. It was still quite like like you said, like a collaboration, but it had this real time element to it because it needed to be done in one take, and so you are at the same kind of focus as you are when you're doing something live with another person in the same room. So that's how I felt anyway.
Yeah. That's I felt that doing quite a I don't know whether responsibility is the right word, but I certainly felt that kind of well, exactly what you're saying, the presence of the other performances. I mean, when on Dialogue 1, when I gave that beat, my part's majority of it's a beat, and I gave it to Joseph. And I didn't know what Joseph was going to do, but I knew his music from what he'd released. So I was kind of totally in the dark whether initially I thought, Joseph's probably going to go for a kind of a, nice kind of quite a pad, quite mellow, and he just whopped it in with this beat, and which was great, and it totally took me back, and I thought, okay, all right, we're going, okay, and that was. I just loved that, that sort of, it was unpredictable, and I guess, I mean, when you came to do it, Joseph, did you sort of did you kind of just go with like, I'm feeling this kind of thing, you just roll with the kind of whatever was you're feeling at the time, or did you?
It happened when I just like got the lira like in Nairobi and maybe some few weeks, and having like, it happened when I made my record Peel, and it's like basically the same idea and concept of like one take recordings and just sort of live improvised recording, and like if it doesn't fit, you just like have to do it again. And for this one, when you mentioned like the idea of one instrument, I was like, I need to use this later because I enjoyed the sound and how intuitive and like random it is. And so after listening to your piece and like listening through and deciding what will happen, I had like back of my mind what the piece could be. But when I found like this chords, like this 3 notes or something, I knew like this is going to be like something different, and I was open for like what will happen, and
just let it roll.
So did you have your head around the lira when you were using it, because it can be kind of like a hard one to control, like did you have enough time with it to give you the confidence to use it?
I think I had a month, and like the first few weeks, I was trying to like attune myself to the sound because it was different, noisy, and like something that I wasn't close to yet. And after, because I did lots of like jams on it and recorded so many one take recordings with it, and during the piece, like the dialogue thing, I knew that I have to like tame it and use it.
Yeah, that's a good word for to use, tame it.
Rail it in.
Yeah, it came out great. I mean, basically and I ended up with was like a very well, defined already. So it was already, it had a lot of character, with the screaming Lyra and the bassy stuff from the Colossus. So yeah, it was.
And Joseph, did you know that Joachim was going to do it? Did you know who was going to add to it at the time when you did it?
I'm
No.
not sure. I don't think so.
Oh,
No.
okay. That's even more interesting thinking. I'm just like, good luck.
It was quite a chaotic process because actually I reached out to some other people as well along the way, and I was quite surprised because I reached out to some people I know from some playing gigs, and I was quite surprised that some people I thought would kind of be right there in the mindset for this kind of thing. It was a really alien concept I was trying to explain. And I learned that, that it's not like everyone can just go, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, you want me to experiment with sounds, and it's not as easy as that. And some people, and there's nothing wrong with it, just don't think like that.
Yeah.
Cannot do that, and that's fine. Everyone can do different things. But it was, I kind of steamed out there at different times and thought it would be easy to for other people to do it as well. But it's not always like that. So I think you, Joachim, I don't know how. I can't actually remember how you got to do the part on it.
Sorry, what?
I can't even remember at what stage you got involved in the project.
Well, you send me the video, the combined video of yourself and Joseph. That's what I got, and I don't know. I think it was pretty soon after you recorded that. I think, and I think I also returned it in pretty quickly after that. So.
Oh, you didn't hang around, yeah.
No, it was it was basically right up my street, because I was doing these, improvisation sets here at Stoor, and so I was really into the improv mode, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it, no worries, I'll get something down, yeah. So what else? I mean. Maybe we shouldn't talk about the exact details, but there is also a live performance version of this that we did somewhere at some time. Sometime
with some people,
which is gonna come out, and
at some point.
And it ended up being pretty hard to organize because first of all, travel restrictions and everything, blah blah blah. But we ended up playing a version live, which was eventually, due to circumstances, Joseph and myself doing the actual in-person together live set. So we actually played live together. Yep. And then Luke got sent those parts and added his bit.
I did.
So eventually it was, the plan was to be together with the three of us and do it real live in person. Yeah. But then things happened and it turned into some kind of classic dialogue situation again.
Yeah, at least it fit with the idea, I guess. But, I would have liked to have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess we can't expand on that, can we? No.
Some point.
Yeah. No, we can't. But I mean, the end result sounds amazing. I mean, I think it's it was funny because Joseph and I were playing this thing at that location, and we were both. We hadn't played together before, so that's the first thing, you just have to trust in each other that you're not gonna fuck it up, basically. and I think we managed well, but we were also, there was some people around. There was not a crowd, but there were people around, and for some reason, if you are amongst people and there's an energy of a room and stuff like that, you tend to be more sort of in performance mode, if you know what I mean. And so we had to really take care of ourselves to watch that we're not going to, completely smear everything, and have some space open for Luke to add his bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't go
So
for
there were
drum roll
yeah.
break.
Yeah, there were many challenges going on at the same time. Not having to play together, only having one shot, and not having the third person there, which was
Yeah.
a bit of a
So
challenge.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, I'm curious, because I couldn't get there, because you were on the original dialogue with Joseph Joachim, when it came to doing it live, was there anything from doing the recording that kind of gave you some kind of, okay, we're both involved in this. We've sort of collaborated in a different way, so it made it less of a kind of cold introduction.
Oh, absolutely.
Or was it just a totally different experience to the dialogues, which were recorded separately?
Well, I think the dialogues, the big difference was that everybody who participated in this was in the comfort of their own studio,
Yeah.
So you know your sound, your gear, and there's less pressure like that, But being in a room with other people and having a film crew around you is just makes it a different kind of vibe, if you know what I mean. So that changed it a little bit, but I mean, what the dialogue, with the recording of the project, how it turned out, and I looked into Joseph's work in more depth, to see what he was up to. I knew a few things after you first introduced him to me, but just dove in and just checked most of his stuff out, and then. It gave me a confidence. Okay, this guy is in this kind of mindset, and I'm 100% sure this is going to be great, So it is just a matter of trusting the other person. I think that's the most important thing when you play live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, for me, actually, I didn't plan much for this one. I was just trying to be super open and sporadic and seeing what will happen, because I just traveled and came, and I knew Joachim's work before, but and also the introduction from the initial project, I knew that it's there's already a collaboration that happened, and this is the in-person conversation that will happen again. So I just did a little preparation and revisited the project itself and crafted some things that could work for this, but and just the leader again, and not knowing what will happen, and also just being open-minded. And I think I usually feel for live performances with another artist is more of listening to one another and making space for each other. It's also still a dialogue. Yeah
Definitely. That's a really good point, because the most important thing you have to focus on when you're playing with another person is on listening to what the other person is doing. People think you have to do something, you have to. Sometimes you have to initiate things, but most of the time it's just, just listen to where things are going and just respond to that, or not even respond, or just leave it going, whatever. So yeah, definitely. I think for the playing with you for the first time, it went quite smooth.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that whenever you're, I think the key to good collaborations is that the other person, in order to do good collaborations, you have to let go of your ego. So this is something that is really important. That, for me, the challenge of holding back is so much more impressive than doing something. So knowing that I'm listening and filling things in is more rewarding than just performing something and presenting my idea. I find that like, because it's so much harder, I think, than maybe people realize, that you really have to like, you have to be relaxed and you have to just be focused in that moment and not think about yourself and think about the total performance, everything as a whole, that you're part of this thing with other people. So I imagine that some people might find that difficult, understandably, that it's not I think it's easy, but then like you had said, Luke, I forget that it's not really all that easy for some people, but yeah, it's just it's a very particular mindset. And
well, I guess it is hard a bit because we all have some kind of ego, to a degree. It's a human condition. We do. But it's controlling that, depending how big your ego is. It's if you're playing, you kind of naturally want to broadcast.
Yes.
So I think you're right. It's the skill, and the hard thing is kind of it's pushing the other way, for the greater good. I think that is difficult. Yeah. It's
rewarding good when you do it, and also like rewarding in a way that like the crowd is not knowing what you're doing, but everybody else that you're with understands. Yes.
So look, I saw some people in the chat, wanting to find out about the project. So do you know where they can find it at the moment? Where they should be looking?
Probably the best place is to go to Oscarton's Bandcamp site, where the information and the release and everything is up there. And that's really the best place. Just Oscarton's Bandcamp. There is going to be some vinyl coming. I think it's quite limited as well, as far as I know. And I'm really looking forward to having it on vinyl, actually, definitely. But all the information's up there.
Cool. So, do you have any plans to continue it? Because you just said you had this idea to, try this project with people from all over the planet. I mean, any concrete plans? Are you continuing it, or?
Well, I thought, because these four came together and Oscar are going to put them out, I thought, okay, that's so good. I thought I'd just wait now to see what to do, because I'm curious as well. Now everything's opened up pretty much everywhere, it's much more than it ever was last year, is how that it will all pan out in terms of getting in contact with people and even the mindset.
Yeah.
Even though it's not it's not something negative born out of lockdown, I don't think. I'd like to think that in the future people would love to get involved just because of the idea of doing it. So it's not something. I always had this idea that it can just keep on rolling, really. No heavy time schedule, just, you meet different people, you come across different people saying, there's this project, maybe you'd like to get involved. And, and so it goes on. Because the dialogues can take quite a long time to finish. And I think that's fine. You can have two people who have done parts, and that can sit there for months until somebody comes along and is the right person to add to it.
Yeah, it can be a logistical nightmare to get it all to the end. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to think the concept is exciting in some way, and hopefully there will be more.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice one. Actually, I was, if you don't mind, I'm really interested in field recording. I just started doing sound packs again with my field recorder, and I know that Joseph is an avid recordist. Do you have any thing to share about that? Because I mean, the thing is with field recording, it's the most important thing about it is. I mean, I've done it, but I haven't done it for so long. But you'll be surprised how many sounds are actually around you, and how many sounds can interfere with the thing you're trying to record. You know what I mean? It's you know, you think, oh, I'm gonna, you know, just pick up this sound, and then when you listen back, there's all this stuff happening, which can be a good thing. But if you really were after going for this isolated sound, you know, there's always so much else going on. So, what is your system? Do you have a kind of strategies or things to share about that?
Yeah, maybe I can say how I started actually, because for me it was just like this realization of how there's so much sound around me that I wasn't aware of, or just buying a Zoom recorder and putting my headphone on, and like sort of you can control the environment by increasing like the gain and having this world around you. And back then in Nairobi, when I was like collecting so much sound, I wasn't like really, I was just interested with sounds that are happening around me and capturing them. But at the moment, it's more focused and like intentional. I visit like the sites or like places I want to record and sort of have like a dialogue or being attuned to like this place, and even think of like the sounds that could happen or I could record. So yeah, at some point I even don't isolate or like really edit much of the sounds that are happening. Or if I really want something focused, I'd maybe see what time of the day that this isn't so much happening, or yeah, it depends with a specific place. And yeah, just trying to like visit the places even before like recording, and just like listen to the spaces and make an effort again to go back there and do the actual recording or something. Yeah.
Has it? Do you feel it has changed the way you listen?
Yeah, quite a lot, because sort of your ears like don't sleep, and sometimes it's very, I don't know if it's annoying, but like you hear so much sound and you try and like mute them, but they're still present, and you just have to accept that there's so much sound around you. Like in Berlin, my move here, I was just so annoyed with the ambulances and the sirens here because they're super loud. And having to like adjust to like understand why the sirens here are super loud. And yeah, sometimes I just like carry plugs and walk in the street so that like at least they're not as loud. But yeah, you just have to embrace the sounds that are happening outside. Yeah.
Yeah, Berlin is actually quite an. Oh, sorry, Luke.
No, you go.
Yeah, I mean, I did some recording in Berlin as well, and I think it has a very specific sound, you know, because of the spaciousness and also the sound bouncing of walls. There's a quality to it, you know, like it almost already sounds very ambient for a city. It sounds very quiet and very spaced out. It has a very sort of long. Long reverb and a sort of undertone, you know. It's like you know, some cities have a really sort of aggressive buzz and a very hectic kind of vibe to it, and Berlin has a very quiet, very stretched out, very ambient type vibe to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think it's because it's super spacey, like there's so much space on the roads, and like the church bells resonate so much. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Joseph, you know, how long, when did you start recording outdoors? of just the general sounds around you? When did you start doing that?
Maybe 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. What have you ever used them with music, or do you like them just the way they are as
Yeah.
in themselves?
Initially it was like using this as like my sample library and editing the sounds and layering them, or like using them as instruments, or like putting them in a sampler and playing them. And it's been changing later, because back then I didn't know much about like the practice in field recording. Then reading and just like experimenting more and doing lots of field trips, I started using most of like the recordings as raw as they are, but I still like use them as samples or like instruments as themselves.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you've
When did you
been
move
at it
to
a while.
Berlin? Sorry, I'm like, when did you move to Berlin?
Last year. I've been here for 8 months now. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to hang out sometime soon.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes you use them in their raw form, and other times you still put them through effects or kind of manipulate them.
Yeah, because like I use lots of granular synthesis on field recordings because there's so much textures from them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you do get like pretty non-standard sounding sort of background noises and even synth sounds, tonal stuff, if the source is something that is a live recording rather than a synth or an electronic source. It does add like a load of character to it.
Yeah. But they're quite complex noises, natural noises, aren't they, really? It's not like one tone. It's, you can, field recording, you can be right down, have a lot of sub. You can have so much along the frequency filling things up. But when you're listening with your ears, I think it sounds different to a recording. You can really hear the thickness of a field recording rather than what you hear with your ear. I've always thought it's much more I don't know, in your face. A friend of mine decades ago, when I first kind of discovered ambient music, Brian Eno and Harold Budd and people like that, I asked him how he listens to ambient music. I mean, proper ambient music, very
real ambient music.
Yeah, real. Not sort of like with loads of tricks in it or anything, but real, atmosphere. And he said to me, well, it's funny, I listen to music with beats in really quietly, and I listen to ambient music really, really loud. And that kind of stuck with me, and I thought, yeah, of course. Yeah, so it's, I love listening to those kind of recordings really loud rather than just the background. I've always been into that. Turning things up when it comes to soundscapes. Just find it interesting. But, yeah.
That is really interesting, because then it becomes overwhelming in a way, in a good way, of like.
Yeah, it's really in your face.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. It happens like when I'm like recording outside and maybe a new pair of microphones, and I put my headphones on and I'm listening maybe for like very long hours. Then when I put out, it's like everything is silent, and like when you're listening through this microphone, it's like an extended pair of ears, which are like
like having a hearing aid.
which you can control, which is interesting.
So do you actively hunt for places you want to record, Joseph?
At the moment in Berlin, I haven't been recording as much. I'm more of like listening through my archive and trying to remember like where they happen, because it's interesting. I don't know if it happens to you when you do like recordings or even voice notes, trying to recall where it happened,
Yeah.
or there's a sense of memory from sounds.
Yeah, I can
Yep.
usually tell, but I try to archive things in a proper way so I can find them back, you know. But I'm not, I don't always succeed. So sometimes there is a bunch of sounds that I have no idea where they came from, you know. I just forgot to forgot to mark what it was. It's funny listening to those things, though. It's like rediscovering something completely unknown, you know. It's really funny. Have you done any recordings, field recordings, Colleen?
Not really. I don't have a good recorder, but I really would. It's something I'm always like, I should invest money in that, but then I don't. Someday soon, because there are things that you can't. What you can the creative possibilities with doing field recordings are just like there's nothing else. So it's something like that I feel like I'm missing. So this is something that I really want to do because, you know, it's just like an endless, the freedom that it feels like when you can take that anything as a sound source, and it's just very, it gets you out of it like expands your mind, man. But it really does. It sounds like, you know what I mean? So because you get when you're with an instrument or a synth or something, there's always that like parameter thing that gets to you. But when you just with recording the environment, it's nothing you could ever get with any kind of machine that's built for sound making.
Yeah, and it's all unintentional. You know, you capture something which is just happening, and you basically find the bits that you want to use. But everything, you know, how it came into being is basically just totally unintentional. There's no script for it. There's no so it's basically finding, sort of rediscovering the sounds when you listen back to them. You know, like just sort of curating the bits out of it. Yeah, it's cool. Do you have any archiving tips, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm not so good at like archiving, but I do like remember most of my recordings when I listen back to them, but it takes also time. Yeah.
So would you then just, if you're looking for something, just scroll through them and just listen to them and just, you know, stumble upon things during the creative process, or are you actually seeking out like a set or a kit of material that you then use to produce something with?
Like my recordings are sort of specific with the place, and I'd remember like what happened on this specific like place, or what objects or like tools or things that happened. So maybe I'll have a folder with the title of the location. I make an effort to name everything after the session of like recording sounds, but other times I just put them in the folder, and when I'm like in the creative process, I'll just jump on a folder and see what works. Yeah.
Do the recordings that you made in a certain environment influence the music that you make with it, or are you just treating them as like cold sounds without any memories attached to it, or do they somehow become part of the inspiration or the thought process to what to create with it?
Yeah, I think they do really play a role, because like the spaces that I intentionally want to record to, I sort of try and stay there longer, or like even go back and interact with the space, even the people who are there, or like if I'm in a new environment, mostly in Nairobi, because that's where I've done so much recordings. I usually like meet people who I don't know and ask them like where interesting sounds could be, or just like a listening walk with them and figuring out the sounds that are happening in this space. Then maybe if I visit the place after a week or month, I'd sort of know this location like well. And when I'm deciding to use this specific recordings in a project, it's still in the back of my head. It's not like I'm separating the recordings from the location itself. Yeah.
Right. What does Nairobi sound like?
Its noise floor is quite loud. Yeah. Yes. And
Have you tried asking someone in Berlin where there's interesting sounds, and did you get the same reaction?
No, I haven't like recorded much here. I just like go for listening walks on my own. And yeah, I've just been listening more here actually than recording. Yeah.
Cool. Have you done anything with field recording, Luke?
I got into a habit probably about sometime in the 2000s when I was traveling. I'd record all the street performers in whatever country, especially drummers, any kind of drummers, or anything percussive. And in New York and Australia, I got a really good didgeridoo player in Australia, I remember. Unfortunately, my archiving's really, really bad, and I don't know recording, but yeah, I kind of got into a habit of doing that with a handheld, and I really liked that. It was really, I've still got a lot of those recordings, the drummer ones, and you know, they just have that quality of you got people chatting on the side, and all this kind of atmosphere around them, and I just figured I'd use them in some way at some point. But that's about as far as I went with it. Yeah, I think I just got inspired by the drummers on the streets, because some of them are really, really good. And well, actually, some street performers in general, some of them are very, very talented. And it's not like these days you can really, if you're a guy, it's like you can't really walk up to someone and go, you know, hey, how you doing? You want to come around the studio? You know.
You could.
You could, but, you know, you kind of, you might be on. Actually, a friend of mine in Brighton, there was a harp player in Brighton, and he managed to. He paid her, but she did go back to his flat to record some harp. And I said to him, "Wow, wasn't she a bit worried that that's not what you really want?" This strange dude coming up. But he said, yeah, she was actually in the beginning, but I sort of just talked to her for a really long time, and explained that, showed some video of me on the machines and stuff like that. It's kind of getting off topic a bit, really, actually. But yeah, no, street musicians, some of the talent I've heard all over the world, it's been pretty amazing, I think. Whatever happens to these people, I never know. It's a mystery.
Hydrophones. That's a Northern Dark Spot is asking if any one of us has ever used hydrophones. I haven't. Maybe I'm pretty sure you two haven't. Luke and Colleen, have you? It's underwater microphone.
Oh right. Ooh.
Yeah. I bought one. I haven't used it yet, but I haven't used it yet. But I've heard recordings of hydrophones, and quite interesting that there's this underwater sounds, which is just different. But I've used an electromagnetic microphone, and this one is interesting because there's so much sound in our houses and studios. And yeah, for me, this one was because you can't see the sounds, and they're like around us. And I did like different compositions during lockdown because I was in the house so much, and I had this microphone and recording kitchen electric sounds everywhere in the house and making like composition for different rooms and how they sound. Yeah.
That's cool. Actually, there's talk about mics now in the chat. I think it's. Do you know what Peter Kern? I think this is Peter Kern. He's talking about Jonas mics. Is that something you know something about, KMRU?
Yeah, the low mics. Yeah, like I know Jonas Grusk, I think it's Gruska or something, and he has this low mics that he built, and yeah, they just sell out so fast. Like after 5 minutes, like a batch are sold out, but like they're really good, and yeah, I'd recommend if you want to like get some microphones. Yeah, it's like low.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, LOM. Yeah. Okay. So what
Yeah.
are they? What's special about them?
I think how like the noise flows and how very discreet they are, and also like he builds like this. He has this geophone microphone which you can like record vibrations of the ground or like objects which vibrate, and lots of electromagnetic mics and really good pickup microphones. This EM, but also just like the normal field recording mics, which are very transparent. Yeah.
Yeah, I stumbled upon a website one time. Maybe this is the one. I don't know, but they had like all kinds of sort of exotic microphones. Just to, especially for field recordists. Like hydrophones, the geophones, and all the sort of contact whatever. And I was nearly there to get into it fully, and then I don't know what happened, but I kind of shied away from it for a while. But I'm really getting into the mindset again. Actually, I recorded a 3D printer a few days ago, which makes incredible, sort of robot noises. The fan is a bit noisy, but if you slow it down, you get these amazing. Intricate patterns because it's moving so fast. You can't actually follow what it's doing if you hear it at real-time speed. But if you slow it down, it's just incredible. So anyway, I'll do something with that at some point.
You know what? There's I think it's in somewhere like Madrid. There's a car park, and when you close the door that leads to the hotel from the car park, the reverb in it is absolutely amazing. I've always wanted to record that, but I've often wondered how to capture the surround effect of that, because you're not going to get that on my mic. It's kind of all, it's coming everywhere. It's this huge, deep reverb, and it was the car park's linked to a hotel of a gig I did a few times. I think it was in Spain, so I've been there a few times, and each time I swear I'm gonna try and capture this reverb, but I never got around to it. But I guess technically I don't really know a lot about microphones, so I guess there's a way of capturing that in all its glory. Somehow.
Yeah, there is this thing called the Neumann head. Have you heard about that? It basically is a model of a human head, and it has the microphones mounted in sort of the ear position, and that is one of the things that can capture the space of a room apparently quite well. And then of course there's rigs of microphones. You can, if you have like a 360 rig or whatever, so pointing in all kinds of all directions, you capture more of the spaciousness of a space basically. So there's all kinds of ways of doing it, but you can actually get really good results with stereo pair, you know. And some of the sort of affordable handheld ones are actually quite good, you know, like the Sony PCM D100. That's the one I use, and it has quite a very convincing spacious feel to it, you know. Depends on the source, and you have to get your levels right, and you have to have it in a clean spot, you know, and point it in the right direction and everything. So there's a bit of tweaking necessary to actually capture something. But if you listen to it on headphones, if you preview it, you can look for the right angle basically, and actually capture something very, very nicely with something you can just throw in your bag, you know.
Yeah.
What's the one you're using, KMRU?
I have like the Zoom F6, but it doesn't have like mics, so I connect the low microphones into it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And it's nice because you can also record 32-bit float, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah, does it go up to 96 and 24-bit and stuff like that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Especially when you want to slow down your stuff, you need to get to the higher sample rates, you know, because otherwise it gets all grainy and shitty.
Which may be what you want, but
Yeah.
Sometimes you have the choice to introduce the dirtiness afterwards, I guess.
yeah.
By the way, it's still no goals, Luke.
I'm just having a mild interest on the side. You know? Mild interest. Yeah, it's probably going to stay like that now.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. But,
yeah, I'm just skipping through the comments, see if there's anything. There's quite a few comments about mics. Let's see. Here, maybe it's another one for Joseph, I guess, because you're working on something in multi-channel audio right now. Have you thought about this? Like, what would be a good mic if you wanted to record a sound moving in space? I guess you would need multiple mics for starters.
Yeah, or there's maybe this microphone called by Soundman where you put them in your ear, and unless you're the one who's moving through the space, or put it in the object, and although it records like binaural, or what's happening around you, like front, back, up, down. Yeah, so maybe this Soundman microphone would be interesting. Like tiny pair of earphones, but they are microphones. You put them in your ear. Yeah.
Have you used them?
Yeah, I've used this ones before. Yeah.
Cool. Are you using any multi-channel recordings, like more than 2, for the project that you're working on?
No, for this one, I have like ambisonic recordings where it's like multiple recordings and you can put them in different outputs, but yeah, mostly channel based. Yeah.
So you're like, so you're like upmixing the stuff from stereo to 4 channel.
Yeah, there's that, and like it's more like hybrid, trying to work both like multi, like channel based, and also with objects. Yeah.
So what are the things you're running into? You're working in quad.
Yeah, I think working in space, or like thinking about space, is just different because you're not thinking about like 2 outputs. It's like the spatial field, and yeah, it's a bit technical trying to figure out like the tools and also like the channels. For example, in Ableton you can't like really do much, but there's some Max for Live devices which can work, but works best in Reaper because you have like infinite channels, and yeah, the technical side can take time to set because it's about routing and everything. But once you get like the technical side of it done, and yeah, getting to work on the piece itself, it's like fun. But at the moment I'm like doing so many routings from Ableton through Jack to Reaper. Yeah, which can which can make things crash. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how this format has been around for ages, and it's still quite a challenge to work in this domain. You know.
Yes. Well, I mean, I know that Logic Apple, you know, they're introducing the what they call spatial audio, aren't they? Which is basically just another name for another name for another name for another name for, you know, it's the type of surround sound in a way. I've always been really curious. I think the problem with the original surround was that, you know, you had to sit in a room.
Yeah. In a sweet spot.
Yeah. And somehow I found that I knew people who just bought the kind of cheap surround things, you know, from Argos or something. And that was fine. I didn't really meet many people who had really high-end surround things. It kind of went really into consumer very quickly, and people just kind of did it to go with the TV and never really reaped the benefits of what audio can sound like when you start messing with phase and positioning and everything like that. So I'm really curious now whether things kind of get better, but catch on in a more not straight to consumer, but more somewhere in the middle where it really is quite special.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I had that thought about 15 years ago, like when it was always big, you know, from the moment it was introduced, it was big in like Hollywood, right? It's like theaters and you know, adding like effects to films to make the experience more realistic and stuff like that. There was either that, like the really commercial, high-profile Hollywood productions, or like totally academic and experimental and conceptual stuff in galleries and you know art installations and stuff like that, and there was nothing really in between. So I you know, I had that thought, and I sort of embarked on this sort of surround sound journey, and eventually did this DVD, but the tools weren't really there at the moment. You know, it was just before you know, surround planners and stuff like that were introduced into DAWs and stuff. So there was a lot of hacking and Max MSP and Reactor shit going on to make it happen. But it did teach me a lot about mixing in general. You know, even when I went back to doing stereo mixing, I picked up a lot of things about mixing in space and thinking spatially from that process that I was able to apply to, you know, just to stereo mixing. I think, like KMRU says, you know, you're mixing in a field. You know, if you have two speakers, you can suggest space, but you're still mixing on one axis. You know, it's like from left to right. It's just one line basically. And if you have more than two speakers, or 4 or 5 or even more, you're creating a field, like a three-dimensional, or not a three-dimensional, but a thing with a depth and a width, you know, and you can position stuff inside the field, which is only, you know, which is way more complex and it's a totally different effect than from placing something in a stereo field. It actually makes a lot of difference, and you know, it just opens up so many new ideas and new ways of thinking about spatial sound. It's interesting, but I mean,
it is,
So that's why I was wondering, what did you run into? You know, because if you start doing this stuff, then you kind of have to force yourself to listen to what you're doing in a different way.
Yeah, you just have to, like really think about it, or like even sketch like your setup and what you want to happen in the spatial field. Because even as you move through the space, things change, and like working with the axis, you can even make so many mistakes that because because you can how you work in with like this, like your room or your setup in your studio, and you're presenting this maybe in a gallery, and the setup is a bit different. It can alter how things change or how it'll sound there because it's different. Yeah.
I actually like the idea. I know it's a bit Elon Musk, but I'm quite into
Nothing
the
is
idea.
good when you preface it with that. Now I'm waiting for it.
No, I'm kind of thinking maybe the only way around this is to have some kind of chip that links to how your brain processes what you hear, that can communicate with the system. So wherever you walk, it computes the right thing for your ears to hear at any time. So to get around the problem of
the sweet spot, the
sweet spot, you kind of I don't know whether I don't know. I can see that being something that would work, and it would totally get rid of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the other way to think about it is to make something or to produce the work in such a way that it creates an interesting result no matter where you are between the speakers, And I've also, there is still spatial information even if you're outside of the ring of speakers or the positioning, because things are coming towards you and things are going away from you. So there is a different sense of depth of the sound, even if you're outside of the outside of the sweet spot, but outside of the actual speaker setup. There is still something else going on than what you normally hear on a stereo system. So once you experience that, you can also think about, doing things that sound not only good in the exact sweet spot, but also do interesting things in different positions of listening. That's another way. Just forget about the whole sweet spot thing. You just disregard it.
Or you could just get a chip.
Yeah, that's the easy way. That's a lot easier.
Or that.
Especially if you could plug it in and unplug it, so you didn't, like a socket,
Oh, I'm totally up for that, man.
Yeah, I'm there, man. Look, we're having jabs. Let's have the chip.
Yeah, I mean, I'm allergic to kind of failing headphone sockets. Everybody has had them. Your headphone that you have to wiggle in order for it to work. You know what I mean? I would absolutely hate that if that would happen in something which was attached to my head.
Good point.
That would be terrible. It would drive me crazy.
Oh, hang on a second. I can't hear
Just
you.
have to
You
hold
sound
your
like
head.
you're a mile away. Hang on a second.
Yeah. I have to walk around like this to make it work all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm getting a new one sent. No, it's on its way. It's attacking up. Yeah, man, that's
That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe wireless is the way to go, I guess.
I find it interesting. I find it really interesting. The whole how we hear things and what we perceive. It's and how it affects our brain. There's. I was talking about this the other day. Because we've been doing some mentoring and stuff here. There's an old experiment that I saw, audio experiment, when I was at school. We went to a lecture, and an audio guy was talking to us about sound. It's one of the only lectures I ever went to. And it was in the middle of London, proper old lecture hall with the rows of seats, And what he did, it's got a proper name, this, but it's I can't remember the guy's name who discovered it, but he plays you what sounds like a garbled sentence. So, it's unintelligible. It's the frequency's messed up. You can't tell what the person's saying. And then he asked the audience, can someone tell me what was said in that sentence? Nobody can. And then he tells you what the words are in that sentence. And then he plays it back. And you can understand every single word of that sentence, because your brain already knows what to look for.
Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing. I mean, that always stuck with me. It's like, how can your brain just fill in those gaps, even though the sound is exactly the same? You know, the way we kind of process things, repeatability, and how things that are repeated all stay the same. Our brains get used to it and learn from it, and ultimately, I think get comfortable with it. The more we hear something, we get more comfortable. You know, if you listen to the dialogues over and over again, they become more comfortable in the darker areas.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah. But yeah, you know,
difficult.
it's an interesting area, I think. You know.
Yeah, Snow says vision works the same, and it's true. I think it's like you know, pattern recognition. You know, brain is looking for patterns basically, and filling in the gaps. Like you're not always. I mean, even you think you have a awareness of the room around you. You're kind of making it up, or you're trusting it's still there if you don't look. You know. And you build this sort of model of where you are, and you're only focused on a very, very tiny spot in your vision, and it's way less than you actually think it is. It is, you know, you kind of scan through it, and the whole picture is kind of created by your brain. It's not in your vision. It's not in your actual vision.
The only thing that exists is perception. That's all.
Yeah.
We don't know whether there's anything else outside of our perceptions, and we never will.
That's deep. That's true.
I like it.
Descartes. I studied philosophy. That's what I have my degree in. It's very useful. And making me realize, so what I came out with that degree is I know absolutely nothing. Cool. You know.
Which is the right result, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're coming out with top mark.
Yeah, it was definitely, it's been helpful, you know. It just it basically trains your brain ways of just to be critical of everything you're presented with, and that's helpful, I feel like. Or not. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anything.
But look, don't you think that a phenomenon happens regardless of what the thing that you hear is complete or not? You know, like this is an example of you know, a way to make you aware of the fact that your brain is kind of filling in the gaps. But doesn't the same thing always happen when you listen to music? You know, there's always, especially in the kind of music we do, you know, like with lots of room for people to interpret. You know, you can have music which is sort of can almost only be perceived in one way because it's got vocals and it's got a hook line and all that stuff. But if it's more abstract, you know, the mind kind of wanders around and picks the focus, you know, on different places in the music and kind of makes its own story with it. You know, it's always, you know, especially with the music, the dialogue type music, you know, like the sort of more abstract, sort of meandering type stuff, or even more sparse, like the stuff that Joseph does, you know, like it leaves a lot of room for interpretation, you know, and the mind or kind of fills the gaps. You know, you can have a different experience listening to the same thing if you listen to them in a different time. Yeah,
or depending what state your brain's in.
Yeah,
it can be very variable, can't it? So
yeah.
I did note. England have equalised. A lot of people were. Yeah.
So now it's 1-1.
Yeah.
Or they didn't equalize the 0. I thought they were equalized already at 0. So not at 1 now.
They were 1. Yeah, they were a goal down, and now they're 1-1. So there's hope yet.
Yeah. Nice one. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So, Joseph, do you consciously leave space for the listener for interpretation, Like, is that something you're occupied with when you're making a composition? Do you take these things in consideration?
I'm actually maybe not thinking about the listeners much because, it's just open for them to like interpret the piece. However, because I find a lot of my pieces, even for myself, every time I listen back to them, it's like something new that I hadn't heard of, and it's in the piece, and also it's maybe quite subliminal or it's like this uncertainty of like the music in itself, but it's already done, and it's interesting just how different people have like different perspectives or how the piece is, and like hearing back what they think about the piece in itself, because but also like I usually try and have this invocation of people thinking like, is this happening in the piece or is it happening outside the piece? Yeah.
That's cool. Sort
That's
of
great.
blurring the
Great
boundaries.
result.
Yeah, blurring the boundaries between what you feed them and how what the environment could also be. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Nice.
Do you tend to think quite visually when you're making something, Joseph? Or
Mostly like I'm thinking about the sound because this like we live in a visual like ocular centric world where we just sort of try and see like things maybe through sound, but for example, I've done an installation where it's like super dark and it's only like the sound, and you have to sort of try and move within the space with your like body, but trying like the sound is like the control of where you'd be. And yeah, for this was just like one to heighten like the listening like perspective and not like think about like the what you see. Yeah.
mm, mm. That must be interesting to try and walk through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, you gotta update me on your progress on the Colossus.
Yeah.
Because it's been around for a while now. You had time to explore it. Is there anything you found out about it? Anything new? Any thoughts?
Well, rule number one, you've got to take a day out. So there's none of this. I'm just, you can't be in the middle of a track and think, oh, I'll just quickly get something out of the Colossus.
Right.
You got to start right. Today I'm going to sit down and I have some speakers for it.
Mm.
And, I sit here with a chair and it takes a good, for what we were talking about, the secret dialogue, I sat down for, 5 hours to try and get something going. It's very much a workstation, and it's, for me, when you work on it, you tend to kind of try and create lots of different parts. So you can create beats, and then you tend to gravitate towards, I think I'll do something over that. So from the way I experience it, it's not so much about like one sequence. It's more about how many different things can I get going, interacting with each.
You mean, oh, right, okay. So you mean at the same time, not like overdubbing, but you actually create parts on different sections of the machine at the same time.
Yeah. So you can bring them in and out at different times. It feels like an analog workstation. I mean, you can use it how you want. It's really comprehensive in its routing. but I've found it's not something you kind of got to know. You got to know the basics of synthesis for a start, and you got to get that one. You got to learn how the matrices work, and once you've learned all that, I think you can just forget it all and then have fun experimenting. But it's such a. I mean, it has 12 oscillators, so there's no shortage of. It has 8 filters, 4 full envelopes, ADSRs, 4 ADRs, 4 VCAs, a double sequencer, ring modulator, and stuff like that. There's a lot on there, There's a lot on there. So, but in a way, it's a very traditional synth. There's no digital circuitry, so it's very old school, very old, which is why I liked it, because it's quite simple really in the way things are laid out. What you would expect from a synthesizer. There's just a lot of it, and the routing can be very complex. Using oscillators to affect other oscillators, you can create frequency modulation. Any kind of modulation, really. You can do really quite crazy things. Just using the oscillators to affect things, which is what I really like about it. It's good for making drum sounds as well, actually.
Does the size of the thing in any way influence how you work on it? Because I feel like when I'm working with, I mean, I have nothing as big as that thing, that's an absolute colossus. But for example, with a 2600 or something, and you're behind it, it sort of demands this attention from you, and you interact with it in a more sort of you almost feel humble sitting behind it, because it's such a big physical machine.
It's big and brutish, and you're right. You don't fiddle around on it. You got to give it.
It demands
time.
your attention.
Yeah, it does. So it's not something I do every day, but it looks good as well. So I like the look of it as well. I think it looks good, which is not why I got it, but it's.
Let's get this thing in my studio, which takes up half the space, just because I like.
For Instagram, right? You got it for Instagram.
Who needs a sofa? So no, it's a lot of fun. It's fun. It's fun. It really is.
I think somebody's asking, how is the mixer and the VCA section? Does it have like the classic EMS stuff, all these different ways of overdriving in every stage? Because that was part of the classic, like the original. I mean, it's not trying to be a copy, although it does look like a Synthi 100 very much. But the part of the sound of the original, the Synthi and the Synthi 100, is the saturation that takes place in every module. Basically, every little thing has its own kind of, gain, and adding all those together in the signal path, creates this really thick sound. Does this machine have that too?
It doesn't. I mean, if you just wire up a simple synth chain, it's clean, polite, and very vanilla. Really, there's nothing special. But as soon as you start bringing in the routing, because you can do so much with the matrices and double up things, and you can use anything to drive something else. You can actually take it much too far. It can get incredibly out of hand, and where just adjusting a slight, if you take the VCAs, depending how you got it wired up, just a slight adjustment in the level or the CV level can totally throw everything into chaos. So the way I work on it is quite experimental. So I just kind of plug a lot of stuff in and think where I want stuff to go, and hopefully, and it usually turns into something else. But what I like about it is it becomes uncontrollable, where just a slight turn of something can totally destroy the set, where you were. So it goes from being very basic to this kind of just a chaos, really. And that's the bit I like about it. It becomes quite impossible to know what's really going on because of the overdrive that happens, and too much level. You take away some of the level, and then that totally changes. It's a bit hard to explain, but it's
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like
it's not regulated. It's not regulated. There's no on and off. It's probably each module's slightly different as well. Nothing's really set 100%.
Yeah, so it allows you to kind of get to that spot in where how things are working in the patch, where you are like in between, kind of being able to guess where it goes, to the point where it's just going all unpredictable and chaos. I like that because sometimes the best interesting moments come out of those situations where it's all sort of uncontrollable and sort of leading its own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't lay it down, if you don't record something you've come
it's
up
gone
with
forever.
It doesn't sound the same the next day. So I love that. You just got to do it then.
Do you do that, Colleen? Patch up your modular in such a way that you have no idea what's going to happen, or are you?
Yeah. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I can't ever make it go back to where it was. I have this another Verbose Electronics, a voltage multi-stage. So it's like a slider kind of sequencer, but I put the I have the sliders are so sensitive that one little knock to it and it'll be gone forever. It also depends on where do I start the sequence when I press play, which also doesn't go back to the beginning. So I can come up with this magical thing, and it's just like, it's now or never. So, which is, I think, is also good because it forces you to like make decisions. Or if you can go back to something over and over again, you could be like, oh, I'll work on that tomorrow, and then again, you also lose the energy of it. So it's cool to just know that you have to do it, and it's either good or it's not. And if not, then you discard it and do something else. Which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that comes up all the time, like people who use electronic tools to create music. Somehow they like to be in this area or in the spot where the machines are actually doing some stuff which is not planned. Or, I mean, if you can think that we want to kind of control everything and be very sort of tailoring things a lot, but often it's the opposite. It's like, just make something happen and then be surprised by whatever comes out and trying to capture that, right?
Yeah.
But especially true for analog gear, I guess, can be so unpredictable and all over the place. It's cool when you do something and it surprises you what you cause it, but you don't really thought of it,
I love when you're learning new gear. That's the most fun part. Because especially with certain modules, I'm just like, I don't, you first get something, you really don't know the potential of it. And then you just try something and you're like, oh, cool. Thank you. It's great. I love that.
I had a similar experience with a module, like at the GRM studios in Paris. It's called like the Sage. Mm-hmm. And I had so much fun because it's like very basic, and I think maybe 7 variable oscillators, and you can like patch them again and again, and it cannot break because it's like fully analog and it's so intuitive. And just as like Luke has mentioned, you just have to sit on it and like understand what's happening. And I had a day I was just like recording and jamming on this Sarge. Like it's like a grandfather. It's so old, and the sounds were just super random. And when you change something very slightly, there's a totally like new sound, and you're just like amazed by like simple patches on actual like oscillators to like make this complex textures from it. Yeah.
So when you're assembling stuff using field recordings and working inside a DAW, do you have any tricks to set things up in such a way that you get like surprising moments, or like or are you very do you lay out your stuff very consciously, like in a timeline or something, or do you what I mean is, like, that's one of the things that I find difficult working inside the box, like retaining that energy of things happening, because everything is so you have to really think about every move that you make, basically, and nothing ever happens just because it happens.
Yeah. Although I use like Ableton, Marcho, like the box a lot. I think I stopped using like the grid lines inside Ableton and like the metronome. So I just everything, like I record, like if it's a pad or like a synth, I just like go with what's already there and just like record on top and not thinking about the click or anything. It's just like going very open and recording, and I find this very like free, and you can just even just drop a field recording, not thinking like what will happen, but will interact well with the piece that you're making, and just make a few adjustments. Yeah,
that's right. If you throw in a long stretch of audio, you can have the same kind of surprise to how it's going to interact with the rest. Yeah, that's true. That's right. That's cool.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that just jumped in my head, but I forgot about it. Never mind. No, I had another question for about this process, but
somebody asked a good question. I think, is it possible to achieve similar results using some sort of virtual Eurorack beats? Yeah, that's a good
this is
question.
one. Thanks, Sander.
Yeah. No, I don't personally have an answer to it, but I think it's a very good question. Maybe somebody does have an answer too.
I don't know. I haven't similar results. I mean, I guess the person means that like this unpredictability, right? That's probably you can have that kind of totally surprising stuff happening when you or inside the box when you use stuff that has sort of random aspects to it, or if you patch things together in a similar way that you would do on a physical modular system, it can definitely happen for sure. Yeah, just keep on adding modifiers until you get unpredictable stuff. Like Max for Live, for example, or even in Bitwig or whatever, you can get lots of unpredictable stuff inside a computer for sure.
Yeah, I think every sound generator on a computer should have some kind of random button, which gets missed off a lot on plugins, actually. Because there's nothing like pressing a random button and just hope, seeing what comes out. And you usually, if you do find something, you usually wouldn't be able to come up with that.
Well, especially if the random function also lets you exclude certain things, because having everything randomizing completely with, like the full scale of the parameter, there's only one in every, I don't know, very few that will actually yield some results, And if you can kind of narrow it down a little bit, like, for example, the reverb or the length of the reverb or something, if you can just, sort of modify that, or the pitch of something, I don't know, just anything that makes it go outside of a range and just end up being complete noise, unless that's what you're after, of course. But
that person that was asking about, whether you can do the same thing in plugins as a modular. I mean, there is actually, I forget the name, but there is kind of a free open source modular
VCV rack.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, VCV rack. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty good. I haven't really delved into it big time myself, but I know it is good. There's also another plugin, which I really do. There's a few plugins I love, but there's one called Generate, which is a synth.
Oh, I love that. And Pendulum, it's
newfangled audio.
Yes. Yeah. I was also thinking about that when you said the randomize button, because that one is so great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a big step in, doing something fresh with a synth plugin. And he's also just added being able to change the scaling.
Oh, really?
Being able to, I actually emailed him when it first came out. I said, look, this is great, man, but put in some different scaling here so we can go in between the notes and get it all really all over the place. And he's incorporated that using some. Yeah, and it's that's, I just think it's he's not paying me to promote it. I just think it's a good step forward to when these things come out. It's thinking a bit differently about synths, especially on the computer where you have a lot of recreations of the Moog or traditional synths, or they're so complicated that it's too much. It's too much to learn exactly what's going on. But something like Generate's is quite simple, but it's highly, you must have checked it out yourself, Colleen. It's very, very effective.
Yeah, I'm not a VST person very much, but that one is epic.
Yeah.
Cool. I haven't used it. I'll check it out.
And actually, I think that I think the Pendulum, is that maybe even free version? Yeah. So you can try it, the Pendulum, and then the Generate.
Yeah.
So it's really, I've gotten some really cool stuff that I've sampled and then put into my Tip Top 1 sampler. And then you could totally mangle it with CV, and I've done so many cool things with that. So I'm
cool.
Really
yeah, Toten Tons 137 is mentioning Synplant here, which is the same people who make the Microtonic, I think. Anyway, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I use that quite a bit actually, the Synplant, and it's got this unconventional interface, so it doesn't have the regular synth parameters, but it just has stuff you can drag stuff, and it doesn't really say or what it is, but it just is a very funny layout with I think it's circular. It's funny if you're not behind it, I can't recall exactly what it looks like, but it has basically it forces you just to listen what happens, instead of know exactly what you're gonna do. It just lets you move things around, and then basically you just judge by ear instead of trying to make something happen. It lets you sort of interact with it and stumble upon things, which is a great way to do it, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
forces you to use your ears. Okay. Okay. I mean, anything else, guys? Because usually we give everybody at the end a little time to talk about their current projects, or to do some plugging, or should we just continue? Anything? Somebody was asking you about your modular on top of the Colossus, Luke. Is that connected to the Colossus as well?
It can be. Up there, I've got an EMS synth, an EMS Well, it's basically the trapezoid
Oh yeah.
license from EMS, and there's this thing up here I really like. It's what's it called? Oh yeah, Woggle Bug.
Oh yeah. That's classic.
It's a random, classic random. I like random stuff, so I kind of, these are really just kind of there's a MIDI interface and an interface for the booklet easel, so because it works on a different voltage, and there's a few, but there's not a lot up. I mean, really with the Colossus, it's if I started buying modular stuff, then I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, good point.
Come on.
Yeah.
So I didn't really go down the modular route. It's it's more interfaces really up there to get stuff in and out, timing, clocks, and a few things to randomize stuff.
Right. So it's not like it's just a collection of stuff. There's no plan behind the way you laid it out or anything.
No. I stick it up there because you can patch it into the Colossus, so it's easy to get stuff in and out.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If you start modular, then you have to basically design your instrument and really think hard about the layout and stuff like that. So, and in this case, it's just a bunch of tools sitting on top of
It's a bunch of modules sitting on top.
Yeah. The Bastillion at KMRU is the video which was called Places. That was shown on the Ableton Loop a few weeks ago to be published somewhere else. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, you watched it, and it'll be published next month. Yeah.
Awesome. What is it?
Yeah.
It's a little documentary I did with Ableton on field recording. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And it's a nice film. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. So I was when you were out of the room, Luke, I was saying, maybe we should give everybody some air and see the tail end of the game. And
it's still 1-1.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Hopefully, it's not going to be another one of those penalty ones. It's always so unfair, I think, because it's so random. Anyway,
the random button for football.
Yeah, the random button. So we usually end with anything that any of us want to share. Just the round of plugs, basically.
Okay.
So if any one of you, let's start with KMRU. Anything you want to share with the audience? Like, where can people find your music? Any project you've coming up? Like any gigs, any workshops? This is the time.
Yeah, you can find my music, KMRU, at Bandcamp. Yeah, mostly at Bandcamp, and that's where I put most of my stuff. Upcoming gigs. I'm working on this multi-channel ambisonic piece, which will be presented in Graz in October on a 48-channel system, and I'm looking forward to this one. And
48 channels.
48
Holy
channels.
shit.
Yeah.
Is that like only one like 40 channel surround thing, or is it going up in is it like 3Ds, like horizontal and vertical at the same time, or?
It's sort of like a dome.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but this is like object based, and you can move the sound, like not thinking about the speakers, just like the space itself. Yeah.
And is that going to be at one location, or is that going to travel, or?
This can be like, it can move because it's like object based. It's not specific to, because you can reduce like the number of outputs. Yeah. or if there's a system, if there's like a location with more than 48, you can extend the channels to the
It's
level.
scalable.
Yeah, or like
Nice.
reduce. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and yeah, just looking forward to share more music soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one. Yeah, I saw you also do like sort of shorter albums that are basically just one track, and you just you just put it out on Bandcamp as a track or as a piece without worrying too much if it's an album format or anything. It's just it's I like that. It's good.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Nice idea. Nice one. Cool, man. Thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed talking to you and enjoyed playing together with you as well.
Yeah, and looking forward to that one too.
Absolutely. Luke, anything except other than the dialogue stuff?
Well, miraculously, I'm off to the Netherlands at the end of this week, which has been harder than you can imagine to even travel anywhere for a long time. So I got 3 special 7th Plane live shows in 2 in Holland, 1 in Berlin, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I actually prepared for them last autumn, and then everything went down again. So to actually be able to do them, in July is a miracle. I feel like it's a miracle just being able to do that. I'm doing a few DJ dates as well. Basically, I'm going to be in Holland for about a month.
Come say hi.
Yeah. I'll give it. Yeah. So it's a bit it's an adventure really, because everything has changed so much that you don't even know whether you're going to get somewhere, and that puts an extra dynamic on everything. So everything's a plus really. Just every step is a plus. Getting there is a plus. The event happening is a plus. So yeah, it's summer in Holland.
Cool. So, what does a seventh plane show look like? Is it you improvising on a small range of gear? What is it?
It's quite a bit of gear actually, but really, what I wanted to do was recreate the gear that I made the tracks on. So there's quite a bit of gear from the 90s, especially the effects, which were all 90s effects. But I've
so
also
you're lugging around MIDI verbs and shit like that.
I'm actually bringing a MIDI verb and a because that's what it was. But I don't even know if you can get them anymore. But so yeah, they're coming with me. But I've been working a lot on the Prophet X synth, which I really like, and so we're hiring one of them. And there's a lot of pieces I've created on that I put around. It's a mixture of the very old 7th Plane and some new ideas that I've been playing with over time. So it's quite an ambient kind of show in a way, but there is some of the old tracks that are quite popular, the best of. Yeah, it's a live show.
Yeah, so it's like recreated live, but not completely improvised, but still
not completely
live.
Improvised, no. But, I really wanted to be able to sort of perform it live.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gear, hired a lot of gear. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
It's an extra challenge, I guess,
Everything's
on top of.
What am I doing? We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's Brexit. I'm trying to pull off some kind of new live show. I don't know, man. But it feels good. It feels good to get this far.
Nice.
I haven't even left yet.
Yeah, I'll come to see you, man. If you're here, I'll definitely come over and check it out.
I'll come and see you, man.
Yeah, we'll do both.
Where are you playing in Berlin? Where in Berlin?
Now, it's something like Potsdam.
Oh, in Potsdam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think that's on the. I forget the date. Is it the 27th? Things have changed so much. I keep.
I'll check your.
Yeah,
I'll check your.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first time any Seventh Plane stuff has been performed live, so
Nice.
that's quite emotional for me as well.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got two visitors already. That's great.
That's a crowd.
You've already sold 2 tickets.
That's a crowd.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph, you can't stay behind, yeah. If Luke is in Berlin.
Yeah, well, I want to come over to Graz now. I want to check out this 48 channel thing going on, man.
No, this is happening in Graz in Vienna in October. Yeah.
Cool. I have to call my agent and get a date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Colleen, anything you want to share?
Well, as usual, many things I can't talk about. But 2 or 3 compilations, tracks on a compilation, which I've really enjoyed doing compilations. Actually, it's been really nice to. It's just been really nice to, to share a release with a lot of people, that I don't know. So it's another thing, kind of connecting. And now I'm working on always working on more music. So also trying to my idea to use the MPC Live, which hasn't been going terribly well. Every time, I'm going to sell it. Let me just
one of
see.
Those.
Exactly. So, but it is the only thing. It's actually the only machine I have that's easy to use unquantized. So I'm trying to work on doing a lot of unquantized techno.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, not easy. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my project. So it's just more important to have a project, even if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Trying to make it work is the fun part of what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sure you'll come up with something amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
You've played live quite a lot though, Colleen, haven't you?
Yeah. Only actually.
Quite a lot. Yeah.
I've been DJing in 6 years, maybe.
Right.
Because if I don't play live all the time, I won't be good at it. That's how, for me, it's like the more I do it, the better it is. And then also, DJing takes so much time, collecting music and all this. It's like, I really find it unbelievable people that DJ and play live equally. That's so much harder than, because you have to prepare. You have to spend some time preparing for DJ sets as well. And I like everything to work all together, so that everything I'm preparing for the live show, then I'm writing things that I can record, and then I'm performing the live show. So it literally everything is working together towards one end. So I like that.
Yeah, it's efficient.
Very exactly.
Focused. Yeah.
Exactly. Efficient creativity. Yeah. I saw this term. There's this horrible building going up in Berlin, and near my place, and it's going to be the Amazon headquarters. It's a terribly depressing story, but they have the most ridiculous buzzword website where you're what are they? They're smart technology, sustainability, all these corporate buzzwords that they think people want to hear, but they don't explain anything at all. It's only buzzwords. It's so ridiculous. It's almost amazing. I was like, wow, this is they've really, really done such a good job at saying completely nothing while throwing out every buzzword you could imagine that they think people in Berlin care about. But they had this thing called for productive creativity. That was one of their things. So it's a space for productive creativity. It's oh my God. That was the most depressing term ever. So it just came to mind. Productive creativity.
Would make a nice t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Wear that on stage and it'll be famous.
Productive creativity sucks.
Indeed.
Cool. Well, it was great to Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Check the pen. I gotta wear the headphones, Appear more human. Sorry, this is referring to a joke we were having before, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe not so funny.
People understand. Cool.
So,
All right,
yeah,
guys.
A lot of that.
Nice one. So yeah, I have one thing or two things I want to mention. One is the Patreon page, and check that out if you like what we do here. You can get all kinds of free stuff. Actually, we do sound packs every month, and the next one coming up is an interesting one. It's in this basement there is like other rooms and stuff, and we decided we would clean it up and have a fresh start, like a post-pandemic kind of thing. If this is post-pandemic anyway, we don't know. But everybody had time to get together and just clean out the whole basement. And it's very reverberant here. It's like concrete and long spaces and stuff. So we put the field recorder out there with us, sort of smashing tiles and shoveling things and doing all that kind of stuff. And we recorded that whole thing for about 3.5 hours, and got about 600 amazing, percussion type sounds out of it. They're all, metal on concrete and, wood on concrete and stuff like that, so like all kinds of variations of hits, basically. So so that will be on the Patreon page next month, or this month, actually. Yeah, you can hear some of the sweating. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Fritz was part of the making of, so that's shout out to Fritz, yo. And the other one is that I want to mention is the Discord server. Check out the Discord server. That's where all the nerds hang out and chat about the stuff we chat about here. Like making music. Lots of information there, really nice exchanges. So yeah, have a look there. Sander should be posting the links in the chat, I think. And that's it for me. So great, people. Thanks for hanging out. I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
fingers crossed for England.
Oh,
All right.
you never know.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao, ciao.